Thank you.
All right, new this morning, USA Gymnastics and an Olympic sports watchdog group are facing a new lawsuit from two gymnasts who say they failed to stop sexual abuse happening in an elite training facility in Iowa. The lawsuit alleges that the sports oversight bodies were first told about, quote, inappropriate and abusive behaviors from coach Sean Gardner back in December of 2017 when he coached in Mississippi and failed to take or properly investigate any actions to protect the athletes. The suit says that inaction allowed Gardner to get a job in Iowa in 2018, where he continued to abuse children despite new complaints. He was just arrested earlier this year. With us now, CNN sports analyst Christine Brennan. Christine, my friend, great to see you. You've covered gymnastics for so long. Again, the timeline here, the first complaints against Sean Gardner surfaced in 2017. He wasn't suspended until 2022, and again, just arrested a few months ago. What questions do you have? What does this raise for you?
Well, many, and obviously it shows the nation, John, that this is still a problem. I think in many ways we go, well, the tours of Larry Nassar, Michigan State, USA Gymnastics, we saw the trials play out in Lansing, Michigan. We saw all that a few years ago. We're like, well, we've taken care of that. No, we have not. No, we have not as a nation. This is still a huge problem in youth sports. It's a problem in Olympic sports, and it continues. So that's, I think, the big siren call, so to speak. That's the headline to the entire nation. Now, specifically here, there does seem to be a little discrepancy. U.S. Center for SafeSport, woefully underfunded, understaffed. If we cared about this, we would be throwing money at them to be able to hire the thousands of people they need to investigate alleged abuse and worse, obviously sexual abuse throughout youth sports, but we haven't. Congress has not. They say that they first heard about it in 2022, and that's when that Gardner was immediately put on a list, and there is a database that everyone can see. It is public. That means it's a temporary measure or suspension, some kind of a punishment, and that is true. I've seen that in many of my stories that I've covered. They do that immediately. The lawsuit alleges it was 2017. That's a 5-year gap. So there are many things we need to still find out about this. The bottom line, we have young athletes who are being sexually abused in this country, obviously going back all the way several years ago. And I hate to say it, John, but I think it's probably happening, God forbid, it's happening today somewhere in a gym. And there are people who are not speaking out who should be speaking out.
So you talked about funding. It gets to the fundamental question here, which you raised at the beginning, Christine, which is how can this still be happening, or alleged to be happening? I mean, given in gymnastics, if there's one thing that all these gymnastics centers need to watch for now, if there's one thing that I think every parent needs to be concerned about, every governing body, it's this, based on what we've seen. So how could it go on for so long if it did?
Yeah. John, you and I have covered the Olympics for years, and it is mind-boggling. But here's the problem. Parents are invested. They spend a lot of money. Their kids, young girls, young boys, too. Of course, Penn State. We saw that with the awful Jerry Sandusky news. Again, on and on it goes with so many of these stories. Young people in college also, as well as even younger. It is very hard for young people to speak up. So parents clearly need to be there to watch and see this. And then they're afraid to speak up because you hope your child is going to move up through the ranks, maybe have the chance to dream for the Olympics. Do you want to then be the one that calls out the coach that is your daughter's or your son's future? And you want to say, no, that coach, in this case, the allegations against Gardner, and now these lawsuits, he is abusing my child. Well, that's exactly what you should do, of course, as a parent or a loved one of a young person. But in doing so, you have probably just taken your daughter out of the lineup to potentially make it to a nationals or an Olympics. That's the issue. And if this country, as I said, was serious about this, the money, and Senator Blumenthal has talked all about this. It's a rounding error to go from the $20 million something budget, 22 million of SafeSport, to make it say 100 million, John. That's when they could hire the thousands of investigators they need so that lawyers like John Manley, who is in fact, of course, doing great work for these clients and bringing this to light, that instead of going after SafeSport, you are funding SafeSport so that SafeSport then, of course, they investigate and do these things in a very quick manner versus having athletes wait for several years because, again, there's no staffing to do the job properly.
Christine Benner, we appreciate you being with us this morning. Thanks so much for the work that you've done on this so consistently. Sarah?
Such an important story. Thank you, John.